All right, and we are live. Hello once again, all of you. My name is Sanket, and I welcome you all into today's session where we will go ahead and talk about the art of data visualization. Now, data visualization, as I know personally, is a pretty underrated skill set in the space of data science. But however, the impact that it actually creates in front of the business leaders or making decisions, that cannot be compared with anything else. Now, in order to go ahead and discuss about this more and throw light towards it and help you understand the power that data visualization actually holds, I have with me Dr. Sharanya Ravi. Dr. Sharanya Ravi has been working as a data scientist for last 7 years, and she has worked in multiple fields in biomedical, in banking, just to name a few. She has trained hundreds of students in the past, and she has also worked on multiple complex projects and achieved great success. So without further ado, let me go ahead and connect you all with her so that she can go ahead and take you into this wonderful world. Dr. Ravi, the mic is all yours.
Thank you so much, Sanket. Uh, Thank you so much for having me here and for the wonderful introduction. Very good evening to one and all present. Thank you so much for being here on this weekend, lovely weekend, right? Um, so I am going to take you through this journey of understanding the importance and, you know, maybe giving a good highlight on the art of data visualization and how important that can be in decision making, right? So, like Sanket mentioned, open up the floor for questions towards the end of the session. But uh, do have any questions on the way? You could put it up in the chat. Uh, I can answer it on the go. I will. If not, I will towards the end. Definitely, your all will be answered. All right. So let me begin. So this is also going to be slightly interactive. So do keep your keyboards ready so that you're able to, give your answer chat, right? Just to give you a feel about data visualization as well. So today's agenda, what are we going to see? So before we jump into talking about data visualization, so I would like to talk to you about data analytics and how data visualization is actually a part of data analytics, right? So I would like to then move on to talk about the current data analytics practices in industries. And then we'll move on to talking about what is visualization, what are the kinds of visualizations. I will also talk to you about some case studies and some use cases. I will actually show you demonstrations, very, very simple demonstration of how data visualization can help you answer very quickly, right? So we'll be seeing that because we will look at what lies in the future within data analytics atmosphere, right? And how we can adopt analytics. And of course, we'll end the session with the Q&A. Okay. So I told you that this is going to be an interactive session. So first part of today's session would answer this very simple question. How much data do you think we create every single day? Okay. I know there was a big number who suddenly flashed up, but any idea? Big data, a large amount of data, any idea as to how big or how much data we create every day? So think about all your devices, billions, yes, of course, definitely in billions. It's a number which ends with an alien, right? Billions. Okay, everybody knows billions. But do you know this number? 2.5 quintillion. 2.5 quintillion. Not billion, not trillion. It's gone to the next level. Quintillion. This is just in 24 hours. To get you an idea about how how much data is this this amount to is next slide, which is actually a real-time um, screen, where at the bottom of the screen, if you see, there'll be seconds running and the amount of GB is also running, right? So here you see that these are some of the applications that we all use, right? Very few. There are many, many more, but these are some very, very popular applications that we use. And at the bottom of the screen, you see at the end of 30 seconds, you will see almost 700,000 GB of data is generated. Now, this is only 30 seconds, right? So imagine 24 hours and much more number of applications. So that's the amount of data around us. So that's why we're all sitting here. Why are we all trying to understand about analytics and visualization and big data? Why is there such an interest in so many things related to big data and data analytics? That's because of the amount of data that is generated, right? So imagine anything connected to the internet collects data, right? Has data, and that is ready for some kind of analysis to give you some insight, right? Now, every organization, even you, right? If you're a part of an organization, the first thing that comes in their mind is, what can we do with this data, right? So these are the typical steps that you can do with data, right? You explore your data, right? Exploratory analysis. You can derive some useful insights, right? And once you get some, useful insights, you can also create them as a dashboard, right? You create them as a dashboard. Why? Because you want to communicate it to somebody, show it to somebody so that you can understand it and try to, get some kind of, you want to put things in action. Maybe if it is sales, you see some sales report, you want to have a better sales report next year. You want to have a better revenue, right? You want to make more money, right? Ultimately. So you create these dashboards to show them as reports to someone. And then what else can you do, right? You can also make predictions based on what you see past 1 year or past 10 years. Based on this data, you can start to make predictions for what's going to happen for future. Now, we're all interested in future, right? So be it weather, be it stocks, we all want to know how things are going to go on 10 days or next 15 days or even the next weekend, right? We're all interested about the weather. I mean, about the future, sorry, right? So making predictions with your data is something what everybody is interested in these days, right? Now, what exactly mean by data analytics, right? Data analytics is nothing but discovering and interpreting some meaningful patterns, right? Looking for patterns in your data, right? Now, looking for these patterns could be through just looking at the numbers or looking at the, maybe some kind of a calculation, or it could be just some visuals, which I'm going to talk to you about in just a minute, right? So basically looking for patterns. And why? Why do you want to look at these patterns? Because ultimately you want to make some decisions. It's going to help in your decision making, no matter what it is. Right? So basically, analytics is like this bridge between big data and your decision. Big data is messy. It has all sorts of formats, all sorts of kind of files. It is coming from different sources. There are videos, images, there are free text, there's numbers, there's what do you call audio files, video files. Many kinds of data are all put together to get your big data. Now, analytics actually put them in order, try to understand them, organize them, and then ultimately helps you in your decision making. So basically, if you think about analytics, it could be as simple as descriptive, talks about what has happened, right? When you get your anything, if you have data in your hand, it's something about what has already happened, right? So that data will that it describe it, it talks about what has happened. Then you can go one more level. You can say, okay, I diagnose it. I see a particular trend. I diagnosed, I go deep dive to see what is actually happening. So that is diagnostic. And then I move on. I start to make predictions. And then based on prediction, I can give recommendations. So these are the basic, you know, steps within data analytics. These are 4 types. Step by step. Of course, every level has different skill sets, and you would, and different tools are used at different levels, right? So this is basically analytics, right? So definitely visualization comes in every part of it, right? So we'll talk about it. We'll see how it can be used in each and every kind of analytics. So let's think about the analytics practices in industries. So when I say industry, it could be anything. It could be education, it could be social media, it could be marketing, real estate, logistics, construction, right? Banking, financial sector. So industry, think about the industry, everyone uses analytics, right? So you could be, I'm not sure, I mean, I'm sure all of you are from various industries. You are all interested to see how data can be helpful to make you make some good decisions, come up with new solutions, right? So does it matter which industry you're from? Data analytics is the in thing, right? So imagine, right? Let me give you a few examples. For example, in insurance companies, it can be helpful to detect fraud, right? You could look at maybe some patterns, right? So especially during the fraudulent claims can be easily detected by a lot of flags. So you could do that either by doing some, visualizing some data, flagging out data, right? All these things could be analyzed through data analytics and can flagged out even before the claim has been submitted. Like even when you purchase something online, right? Suppose you're not in, suddenly you get an SMS or an email saying, "Are you sure you made this transaction?" So all this is data analytics. There's nobody sitting and looking at, um, your credit card transaction. It's all automated. So the system is actually flagging out these things. So they all this is actually fraud detection. So they go through previous data to make these kind of predictions, and these kind of flags come out because of data analytics. So that is the insurance. Even in sales and marketing, you want within HR department or within the sales department, you want to evaluate your sales representatives, right? You can look at how much of revenue they've brought in. You can, maybe it's an appraisal, right? Many things can be analyzed through the data that is available, and you can create reports and charts, and this can easily tell you how things are trending towards. Like, for example, you can talk about how overall profit or loss has been it is compared to the previous years, right? You can also check how your particular sales executive is working, right? If they seem to be doing really good in a certain sector, you can always deep dive to see why they're doing, how do they manage to do it. Maybe they can upskill some of their other employees. So many decisions can be made by such reports, right? So of course, all to improve the sales as well, right? Let's now already when you see this report, you already see some visuals happening. There's some graphs, right? Though there are some numbers up there, what caught your eye, right? The first thing that caught your eye was these 2 graphs that you see, right? You see 2 bar graphs. Nobody would have thought of looking at those numbers on top, right? Immediately when I look at that bar graph, I can see total number of calls per month. Quickly I can see. Before even I look at any of the numbers, based on the height of that bar, I can find out which month had more calls. Maybe it was a customer service calls, right? Or revenue by sales representative report. So quickly there are some sales representatives that are there, and how many revenue I don't even have to say anything. The red is all automatically the most longest bar there, and you say Julia Rogers, right? She did amazingly well. So I don't even have to see any numbers. Colors and graphs can actually just give me that information I want in a second, a fraction of a second, right? Then I can go ahead and look at numbers later on. If I really want to see how much are they, what is the actual revenue, etc. Right? So that is data visualization. So let's jump into the actual hero of the day, data visualization. What exactly is data visualization? So that is the presentation of your data in a form of a picture or a graph. That is data visualization. Right? Now, why do we have this? It helps the decision makers. It could be your bosses, it could be yourself, it could be your stakeholders, or it could be the government, whoever is your audience, right? It helps them make the decisions easily because they'll be able to visually grasp the concept. So certain things, suppose you're not able to show them on numbers, it's easy to look at them visually and understand the concept, understand what's happening, right? So that can be achieved by visuals. Now, basically, ultimately the aim of visual is to help people understand the data better. That's the ultimate aim, right? So let me give you a quick task. Okay. In the next slide, I'm going to show you some numbers, right? Within 5 seconds, I want you to find the number of nines here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. How many nines are there? Time out. Okay. 8, 7, 4, 8, 8. So there's still a little bit of a confusion. Some say 7, 7, 7, 8. See, there's a confusion. Okay. Now I'm going to give the same 5 seconds, but a different picture now. Now, let's see how many of you can get me the right answer. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Eight. It's the same picture, just that the nines were highlighted. They were made to look slightly bigger than the rest of the numbers. It was bold and was red in color. Why? It was sticking out of that image, right? You didn't even need seconds to count it, right? Less than 5 seconds. I think you would have done it in 2 seconds, right? So it's so easy. That is the magic of what you want to highlight. If you can point it out, you can make that the main hero of that image, right? You want to bring it out. You want to just flash it in front of your audience. That is what is visualization. They can receive it in their head, right? Now you can kind of give some, the importance to visualization. Now you can imagine how important visuals can be. So visuals can be of many types. I told you they're all graphs. So graphs itself, they could be of various, few of them here because there's so many types and it's very hard to wrap them up all in here. So this is like a cheat sheet where you can think about what kind of graph to use for what kind of question you have. Suppose you're doing some kind of a comparison. So these are a set of graphs. You can do like a bar graph. You can do a line, and within comparison itself, right? You could do, I think if you're looking at over a period of time, you can look at line charts, column charts. Suppose you're looking at something among comparing different items. If you have different categories, you can do them through the bar chart, column chart again, right? So suppose you want to see distribution, right? You can use a histogram, line histogram, scatter chart, so on and so forth, right? Or if you want to see the composition, again, you can use some of these. Composition is what percentage, right? For example, pie chart, right? What is the percentage of a number of men versus women, right? In a particular office, right? So that could be, it gives you out of the whole, what are the different compositions of the different categories. So all these things can be shown, represented through some of these graphs, right? So these are just few that are mentioned here, Right, let me go through some of them, giving them a little bit more detail about what kind of charts and how they are used. For example, line charts. Right? Anytime you think about showing the trend of something changing over a period of time, right? You could use line charts, right? Something changing over a period of time. If you think of anything in those lines, line chart is the best representation, right? So line actually shows every data point from a particular starting period till an ending period and how it is trending, right? So that is line chart. Chart, either it's a horizontal or a vertical, doesn't matter. You can do it however you'd like, right? So it is basically to show a particular category, right? You want to see how that category is compared to the others, right? So it's just like a comparison between different categories. And if you have subcategories, you can look like something like this: act, um, bar chart, right? Or it could be a column right next to each other. So bar charts are when you have different categories you want to compare with, you can use a bar chart. Pie charts want to show the share of each value in categories. So one thing to take back a pie chart is if you have more than 5 categories, do not use it, right? It will get really messy. It won't give you the right insight. So anything less than five, 4 or 5 maximum you can have to create a pie chart, right? So every portion will be, the entire circle pie is 100%, and you can see the others with their corresponding percentages. Right? Other is polar. It's maybe a sister of pie chart. It's like a variation of pie chart, right? Instead of looking at pies, you'll see how they are emerging from the center. So it radially emerges, and you see every section has, if it has subsections, will tell you the division within that, right? So value will be generated from the center, and um, the size, right? That is the distance from the center will tell you how much it is occupying out of the whole, right? So that is polar chart. So it's very similar to pie chart. Area chart, you use it when you're representing quantitative data. Quantitative is anything with numerical values involved, right? Suppose you want comparing few categories, you want to see how the entire proportion is divided, you can use an area chart. Scatter chart is when you are comparing two things. Suppose I'm comparing height and weight, right? For a particular height, what is the weight? So if I do some kind of a comparison, I want to see whether there are any relationship between two variables, right? Or 2 columns in your data. You can do a scatter chart. So every point is actually the relationship between the two variables. Okay. So scatter chart, when you do it on a map, it becomes a scatter map. Right? So I'm sure you would have seen graphs like this when COVID was actually at its peak, or actually growing to, just beginning. So every country, they will show the little red dots, if you remember those scary times, right? Yeah, but glad we are out of that. But I'm sure you can relate to those graphs, right? So this will, if you see this graph itself, you'll see the different colors are there and the size of the bubble. So they represent different things. And it's like same thing without the map there. So each bubble represents a category. The color represents something else. So you can create in multi, right? The color could represent something. The size can represent another thing, right? Every bubble is a cluster. So group of data points are stuck to that cluster. Sorry, right? Funnel chart will tell you how the data is moving from one phase to the other. Suppose that this is a sales, because you have a certain number of leads. From those leads, you become prospects to opportunity to finally the win, right? So when you want to show at different levels your numbers are changing, you can use a funnel chart. Radar chart, radar or radial chart, spider chart. So the same thing has different names, right? You want to see how you want to compare multiple variables at the same time, you could use this, right? You can see, so this is for a mobile phone. So battery, brand, memory, display, camera. So all these variables at the time are compared with each other. So this can be a radar chart or a radial chart. Tree map is a good representation when you want to compare. Remember, I said pie chart is good only if you have about 4 or 5 categories. Now, when you have more than 5 categories, tree map is the best representation you can go. Sunburst, again, very similar to tree map, just it looks like a circle. That's it. Both are doing the same thing, right? Next is if you want to show a particular some kind of one number, like you want to show your metrics, like you want to show your KPI, you want to show your some kind of an indicator, then you would use a God's chart, or you could use an numerical indicator. You just want to display that number, or this is the revenue this year, or this was my target and this is where I am. You want to show that, or you could use graphs like this, right? So now, this data visualization is not something new. It is not something that's happening these days. Historically, data visualization has been going on. So let me show you a couple of famous data visuals. This is actually real Napoleon's March map, right? It actually shows, it's almost like a line chart telling you the timeline and how things are moving. Okay, so this is the Napoleon March map. And another one is the 1854 cholera outbreak map. So look at the year 1854, right? So you had such plots and maps and graphs from there. So visuals has always been something intriguing, no matter where we were and what time period we were. All right. Now, why do we have all these visuals? Ultimately, to get some kind of insight. That's the ultimate aim. Anything you do, you're doing analysis, you're doing visuals, you're using visuals to do some analytics. Everything leads to one goal, that is to get some derive some useful insights. So let me give you a very interesting example that everybody will relate to. Netflix, right? At their initial period, so when they were showing different shows, they used to have internally, they need to give some kind of ranking to these shows, right? So what they did was they had a benchmark. If a particular video or a show was watched to its 100%, then only then they would get the flag that it has been watched completely, right? So how they were benchmarking. But what did they see? The finding was that people were not watching it to 100%. They were watching only 90 to 95%. All right. Now, what was the insight? The insight was that they were, when they deep dive to see what happened with that 90 to 95%, they saw that only people were not watching the title role and the end credits. So what happened? The recommendation was use very famous skip intro and episode button. So that was the ultimate insight, and that was the recommendation. That was the action that they made after getting that insight. All right. So this is very simple, but that's how, but if you think about it, skip intro, next episode, very simple buttons, but it had there was a lot of analytics that went behind before they were introduced. Okay. Now, what are some best practices in visualization? There are some good visuals and bad visuals. Let me show you some examples, right? So first of all, what should you remember when you create visuals? But you need to have a clear purpose. Next, you should know your audience, who you're showing these visuals to. Right? If I show very technical numbers to someone who is in a high level, uh, your corporate, right? Very, if I talk to them very technical, it really won't matter, right? They won't really relate to your data, right? Because they ultimately want the final report. They want the final big numbers. They don't really think about the technicalities behind it. Whereas when you are talking to a very technical person, you don't get into the details. Again, they will not be interested. So you need to be very sure about what kind of audience is going to listen to you. And based on that, you need to first filter out what am I going to show, what am I not going to show. All these things are something that you need to decide before you actually do the presentation. Now, of course, you need to use the appropriate visuals. Remember I said using pie chart is not a good idea when you have too many categories. So you need to make the decision which chart will best represent my data, because there are many options, right? So you need to play around with it and think about what will best show what I need to actually show, right? And of course, design for user engagement in the sense that make it a little bit interactive. I'll show you how that can happen, right? I'll show you a demonstration. I can show you how you can make a particular graph very interactive. Now, before I get into the demonstration, let me show you some bad visuals, okay? Right? I myself am telling you, these are some really bad visuals. So if you see here, these are the top 100 tweeters. First of all, it makes no sense to see these 100 people here, right? Some of the, you don't even know what these colors represent. This is called probably a good visual to hypnotize somebody, but not really to get any insight out of it, right? So this is not a great visual. Another really bad visual is this one, right? You really don't know what they're trying to say. There's no heading, there's no tail, there's no head, tail, nothing to it. Next, all the bars, they're all bars actually, but they're all very flat-lined. And there's just one peak in one of the bars, right? So really bad visual. Second of all, never use a 3D visual. It is very distracting. Okay. So these are some, there are many, but this is just some example, really bad visual. All right. Next, and I'll show you some sample business use cases as well. I'll show you some. So where people have actually used visuals to create dashboards to, present to their audience. So this is a typical financial performance dashboard, right? Where it's very clear, you have your balance sheet and you have some of the metrics pointed out, like, return on asset was 16%. So there are some numbers that are pointed out and you have very good headings, right? The colors are not flashy. Things that need to be highlighted are highlighted. They're written in bold. So this is a very good visual. Okay, this is in for financial. This is actually a logistic dashboard. This again talks about some of the product, how, it's more like an inventory, right? The shipping status, then you have the monthly KPIs, right? In a different section, right? And you can track it as well. So this is in logistics. This is in a hospital, healthcare tracking patients, especially the waiting time within the ER, right? Different patients, how many inpatient, how many outpatients. This can be a time data that can be updated within the hospital. So these are some, if you see here, again, big numbers are flashed out there, right? So mostly, even before looking at the numbers, if you look at the graphs itself, you can have a fair idea. Average waiting time by divisions. Looks like surgery has the most waiting time, which is not so bad, it's actually 67, right? On an average, it's about 60 or 50, right? 50, 55, I guess. All right. So these are some places where, just a few examples, but you can do this for any field or any industry. You can create some visuals like this, right? So let me show you a couple of demonstrations where I'm going to use a very common tool that everybody knows, right? The first tool is Excel. So I'll show you how you can create such visuals with Excel itself. So let's look at a business scenario. Scenario number one. This is in a bank and this is within the loans department. So what's happening in the loans department? Let's see. So the head of the loans department says, "Hi team, why do you think why people are taking loan from our institution and where do you think they are from? Can you all suggest some opinions and let's see if we can do a better job next quarter based on what you suggest." So go ahead, think about it, maybe give suggestions of where do you think these people are from and why are they taking loan. So we have a few people from the team, they say, maybe they're buying a house. And then another person says, no, maybe they're paying bills. Another person says, no, maybe they're just going to Vegas, spending a lot of money there, and that's why they're taking loan. So the head of the loan department says, why not just look at our data? We seem to have a lot of data here. This is a sample of the data. Let's take a look and see if we can get something out of it. They say, okay, let me use Microsoft Excel to do that. This is actually the data. Let's see what it contains. So data actually has all the information. Every row is about one customer and the loan, the detail about the loan and about the customer itself. So what is the total loan amount? So you see there are almost 100,000 lines of data, right? Where they are from and what is their, designation, what is their, do they have a house? A lot of information about them. So quickly, we can get a summary of this by using pivot table. So we're going to answer two questions. Why are they taking these loans? Like we want to know what's the top purpose people are taking loans for. So that's the first question we're going to answer. So we create a pivot table. We use the information from the table, which is there's a column called purpose. And I'm going to say the total per loan amount for different purposes, right? That's what. So quickly, immediately within a couple of seconds, I got this information on a table. See, when I sort it, it looks like debt consolidation is the top reason why people are taking loan. But when I create a visual, I can make this better. Instead of showing it as a table, instead of just looking at numbers, if I quickly make it into a graph, which is what I'm going to do right now, so this immediately, even without looking at the numbers, I can see that debt consolidation is the top reason. Right? So I barely took 5 minutes to do this. Right? So this can happen very quickly. So when you have a purpose, quickly you can use where purpose is the question, right? Now next is I want to know where these people are from. So quickly again, I do a summary. There is information about their location, their address information is there. So we're going to use that to find out which state has been taking more loans. So where are these people mostly from? So these are all states in the US. So one thing about Excel is it's very, very intuitive. The minute it sees US states here, I can use a feature called maps, right? That can create such maps. So intuitively look at the abbreviation and know it is USA. So it picks up the US map. And the darker the color, the more loans have been taken in those states. Right? So two questions I quickly answered and easily looked at it visually to get my results. Right? So that was quick. So we can go back to the loan manager and give him that information, say that the debt consolidation and credit card refinancing are the main reasons. Who would have thought? They didn't even think of those, right? Next, it's like California and Texas seem to be leading in the number of loans that have been taken, right? So that's one we can accomplish. So if the loan head actually says, great work, we can now plan for the next quarter. Right? Now, let's look at another scenario. Let's look at what is their problem. This is actually a retail company. And looks like they don't have much of a problem. They actually did very well that particular year. So what they want to do is they want to highlight the metrics, the key months to their corporate to show it off. They said, hey, we did a good job. Let's show it off and get some bonus for this, right? So that's what they want to do. So it says, okay, let's, maybe give some suggestions as to how we did well, which months we did well. So people come up, say, hey, let's just go report saying that we did well in December, Jan, Feb. That's like the key months where I do a lot of shopping. The person says, no, I think the profit margins are highest within the middle of the year. So maybe that's when we did well. But, let's say it says, the loan person says, the head says, let's create a report on Power BI, right? And slide. So let's look at this. This is actually a real report using the sales data. And this is very, very interactive. When I told you about the user interactivity, this is a perfect example. Now you see here, this is actually one dashboard that gives you all the information about the sales. And you see here, as I click the graph, I can go by months. I can look at them in detail. I've highlighted. So when I'm doing a presentation, I can actually deep dive in to show them the details. And I can also see sales by market, by category, different products, how each of them did in different regions. So anytime I click on any data point, you see all the graphs will change, right? All the numbers will change. And they're all talking about that one particular category. So this is how even one small report like this can give much more information than what it's showing, right? So this is very easily doable on Power BI. So that's another tool that is used for data visualization. So this is again, quickly, even as you're doing the presentation, when they're asking a certain number, oh, so how did technology do? All right. What is the top category, subcategory within technology? So you can get those numbers in a flash, just a click away, right? And then you can also see the performance by the different countries as well. So this again is a good representation of how you can visually understand your data. So now mission 2 is also accomplished. You see that there was a spike in the mid and the end of the year, and the technology category has been doing well. And overall, the entire dashboard looks amazing, right? Very easy to look at, very nice to look at as well, right? So this is a very, very simple demo. Within like 5 minutes, I showed you demos on 2 different tools and how they can visually give so much of information and how visualization is acting as such a big assistant to help you make decisions. Right? So where are we headed? What is the future of analytics in different industries? So before that, let me show you some of the popular tools visualization that are available in market. Right? These are very popular. Many leading companies use at least one of these tools to create their visuals. Right? So Power BI, R, Click, Tableau, Python, right? Data wrapper, Excel. Excel is also an amazing tool to create visuals, which we just saw, right? So all these are some of the popular ones. There are many, many more, but these are some of the popular ones. So analytics wise, where are we all headed towards, right? So we are all moved on from just making assumptions by gut feeling. We've come to a point where we are trying to reduce the error and increase accuracy by doing statistical analysis, visuals, you do some predictive analytics. All these are where we are all headed towards. Right? Doesn't matter what industry, be it banking, right, or be it retail. We are right now into an era where you're getting recommendations, right? Not just recommendations. The recommendation engine understands the psychology and the sociology of the customers, not just based on what they've bought, right? it tries to learn more about the customers, giving them the right recommendation. So about education. Education is now moved on to innovation, right? No more just knowledge based. People want new ideas, new discoveries, right? It's right from school level, not just in the university, right? So that's where we are. Even industry, we are into automation has become 3.0, but now we've moved on to IoT, the Internet of Things, network of things, right? So that is where we are moving towards actually, and we are already there, right? Now, analytics is, you know, um, the usage in industries. If you think about it, there are many articles that talk about it. Right in 2015, people predicted that most of the companies are going to adopt big data analytics, and 90% of the professionals at that point said that this is in 2018, right? Data analytics is going to be key to the digital transformation, and that came true, right? Right now, there's 23 times likelihood of the organizations to be data driven, and those data driven customer 19 times likely, right? And by 2020, they predicted 2.7 million jobs within the space of data science and analytics, which is true. There's more and more coming up, right? And so much more is happening within the data science space and analytics. So ultimately, before I wrap the session up, I would just like to tell you that if you put your step forward to go ahead and learn analytics and visualization, would create probably a dashboard, something that looks like this, right? Which is neat, clear, and understandable. And what happens if you don't? So when you learn to do these things, you know the different steps you might have to take towards creating something like this, right? From understanding the purpose till creating the required content for your audience. But if you don't know the right steps towards it, you could probably create something like this. This is actually a real London City dashboard, right? That is probably representing far too much information than that is required, right? It's not clear as to what it's trying to say because the person who created it wasn't sure what they were trying to do, right? So avoid creating such things and go ahead and start your journey towards data science and data analytics, and definitely keep visualization as a part of it. Thank you so much. Maybe I will go through some of the questions that have been popping up. I've missed it. All right, thank you. Okay, so yes, I think some of the questions have already been answered. Any questions? Please feel free to speak right now.
Thank you,
Okay.
Sharmia. Thank you for the session. And I see a lot of people are actually attending our session from social media platforms also. So I have an eye on that too. So if anybody has any question who are watching us on Facebook or on LinkedIn, you can let us know. We will be happy to go ahead and answer those questions too. Naveen says recorded video, please. Naveen, the sessions are being telecasted right now on all of our social media platforms. So you can easily go ahead and watch it any number of times on any of our social media channel. Perhaps the best would be you go to our YouTube channel, and under the live section, you will go ahead and find the video again. Okay. I see Jenny has a question. Where are the tools that you're using and how do we access it? What are the tools and how do we access it? Jenny has this question. Shania, would you like to take this?
So, yeah, sure. The tools I use right now is the first one is Excel, Microsoft Excel, and the second one is Power BI. So Microsoft Excel, anyone who has the software tools, all the tools of Microsoft Word, Power BI, Excel, PowerPoint, all this is, I'm sure everybody has it if you have a Microsoft computer. You can use that, you can create that. Power BI is freely available as a desktop version, which is what was used for that particular scenario, which is again free to download, right? So you can try. It's Of course, some of the features won't be there, which is there in the licensed version. But yes, you can play around with it with the desktop version as well.
Awesome. Getting a few
All right.
questions. How can you start your journey as a data analytics, roadmap to business analyst? More or less, let me just give you an idea, guys, before I go ahead and get Dr. Ravi onto this question. We actually have a designed roadmap that we go ahead and offer to all our learners also. We call it as the 6 months data science job oriented program, in which we go ahead and make sure that you have all the skill sets that are required in order to go ahead and start working as a data scientist. That something you can do in the next coming 6 months. Or if you want something more interactive, if you want something more detailed, we do have MBA programs in data science. We do have doctorate programs in data science, as to speak. Now, let me go ahead and get Dr. Ravi onto this. What's your take on this? How can one become a business analyst? What all tools does he need to master? You know.
So to become a business analyst, you should probably learn to work with data, in the sense that, remember I said there was a one part where I talked about the different types of analytics you could do with, right? You start off with the descriptive and you go with diagnostic and predictive and recommendation, right? So, or prescriptive. So with um, the first two steps, you can take it as simple as even Excel. Even Excel can help you do all these, right? Excel and maybe some visualization tools like Power BI can be helpful in the first two stages. Of course, moving on, if you want to go ahead to do some kind of predictive analytics or you want to do prescriptive analytics, you do have to learn a little bit of programming, where you will learn a little bit of Python, where you learn how to do some machine learning, right? So do that, only then you can create some predictions, right? So there are various tools, right? Even for the descriptive analytics, where you can use ETL has different tools to do that. So, but it can get as simple as Excel to as some really complicated applications that are available in the market as well. Yeah.
All right. Ray has a question. Is there a maximum number of colors for data visualization? How about colors? How important are colors in data visualization?
Yeah, it is important. You saw some of the really bad visuals, which are very colorful, but does it really, hit the point, right? So colors, yes, they are important. It shouldn't be too distractive, right? You need, while making everything very colorful, you might not drive the point you want to drive. You want to highlight those that you want to really point out in a different color versus the others. So yes, colors are important. How many colors to use, what colors to use, depends on how you want, what you're trying to show as well, isn't it? So first of all, my take on it is, don't make it too colorful, too jarring, because it's going to be very, very distracting. People are not going to will going to wonder what to look at, right? So don't make it too colorful. Be subtle and keep it simple. That's the best tip I can give for visualizations. Keep it as simple as possible. The more simple it is, the more information it will drive.
Also, there are two factors that are involved into this. Let me focus on that also. First of all, what are you trying to achieve using visualization? What are you actually trying to visualize? And second, and probably the most important thing, who is it for? Who is your audience? So it totally depends on these two things, whether there should be colors, green, blue, black and white. It all depends on that. So it's not a one size fit all solution for all your data visualization problems also. Joseph has another question. This question I've answered it a million of times. Let's get Sharnia's take also on this. Data analyst versus data scientist. What is the difference? How do you differentiate these two?
Okay. Data analyst and data scientist. So if you can think about a scientist with a white coat and a glass and a magnifying glass, what do? They're trying to discover something new. They're doing experiments, right? Same thing happens with data. Data analysts looks at what has happened, try to understand and get inferences about what is going on in that data particularly, and maybe look at some patterns, get some insights out of it. Data scientist goes a little one step ahead, right? Tries to do experiments with the data to understand, make some predictions, prescriptions for a later point of time, right? Think about it like that. It's very simple to imagine a scientist with a lab coat, right? So data scientists does exactly that. They do experiments with data, try different techniques, and come up with a solution that could help for making a prediction or making some kind of analysis for a later. So maybe Sanket can add on to it if there's more.
Yes, there are many ways in which it can be described. For starters, you can put it at this way: you start your career as a data analyst, and with time, you go ahead and move towards data science. So, data science, as I know, there are multiple aspects to it. As Dr. Ravi also mentioned, it is more of a complete role. You start working. First of all, you collect data, then you analyze data, then you visualize data, then you go ahead and find insights out of it. So this is a full stack data scientist, or a full stack process, end-to-end process is what you can call it. Data analyst or data analysis is just a part of it. So it's similar, when you start a job, you do not get to handle end-to-end things. You get to handle a piece of it, a part of it. So when you start as a data analyst, and with time, when you go ahead and start understanding the data better, the process, the methodology better, even domain knowledge is something that comes very important in data science. So that's when you become a data scientist. So it's something that you can call it as a senior data analyst of some sort, as a data scientist, just for understanding purposes. Peter says, what can Exaltius bring to us? Is there much programming skill needed? Okay, so there are two questions. I'm going to take both of them. First of all, it's a myth that there is a lot of programming, or you have to be like, a hardcore programmer in order to go ahead and work as a data scientist. I know data scientists who are very weak in mathematics, but they are working as data scientists. I know data scientists who come from backgrounds such as HR. No offense to HR or any other background, by the way, but HR or pharma, or, basically what I'm trying to tell you is not even science background for that matter, not even commerce, So if they can go ahead and start working as a data scientist, you can also go ahead and do it. See, understand, Python is a tool. Okay. So like any other tool, this is something that you'll have to learn. You can use Python to make websites. You can use Python to make mobile applications, but you don't need to do all those as a data scientist. That is something that you need to do as a developer. You only need to use Python in order to go ahead and work with data, because you will be working with millions and millions of data, which is beyond what Microsoft Excel can actually handle. Otherwise, you could have done data science on Excel itself. So understand the purpose. Python is just like a hammer. A hammer is a tool. A carpenter also uses a hammer. A blacksmith also uses a hammer. They have different purposes with it. It's all about the job role and responsibility and what you're doing it. And as I said, there are so many people in 2023, I can at least think more than 50% of the people are not from science background who actually go ahead and enroll into our program. Now, having said that, what Exaltius brings to you, let me go ahead and rephrase that part also. Exaltius is an AI-driven company. We create data science solution for companies. We go ahead and create tailor-made solutions for companies. Now, back when we started, around 5-6 years ago, we understood that there is a problem statement that people, what they end up learning in colleges or, professional education, and what they end up doing in an office, these two are two separate things. And there's a huge gap between them. And that is the reason why it's hard for freshers to get a job. That is the reason why you go ahead and get a job, you are not able to be productive from day one. We try to bridge that gap. How do we do that? Through practical training. Learning from people who are already doing stuff as such, who are already industry experts. And that is what we have been imparting to all our students in the last 5 years. And that is how we go ahead and plan to deliver all our programs going forward also. That is why internship is a key element of our program. That's more or less, I can talk about Exaltius and the methodology, the process that we follow over here. I don't see any more questions. How much is the 6 months training? Well, we do have some offers running, and we do have some batches coming up. So I suggest that you go ahead and check with your counselors, and they can go ahead and suggest you the next batch, and you can go ahead and enroll into it. The price that we are selling it for right now is $599. However, you can check the availability, and accordingly we can go ahead and make sure that you're a part of that batch also. Anybody has any more question, guys? We are here for your questions. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to go ahead and type it in. While I'm waiting for you guys to type in, let me go ahead and just glance through the social media platforms also to understand what's, if there's anybody who has a question over there too. Anybody has any more question, guys? No? All right, then I guess we are done for the day. Is a good credential considered? Joseph has a question. Let's take this one question. Is it a good credential and considered by different companies? I don't know what that means. Sharanya, are you able to figure out what that means, the question? Joseph, can you rephrase that? Do you mean the certification program, is it considered by the companies? Okay, so let me assume that's your question. Is a 6-month certification program validated or considered by the organizations? Well, to be honest with you, certifications have a different value at the end of the day. It's a proof that you have learned how it is. Also on your resume, you do not go ahead and just mention that you have completed this certification, but you are actually going to go ahead and showcase your skills to that organization also. What I am trying to say over here is, for example, if you go for an interview, you're not going to get a job just because you did a certification from us or somewhere else. Okay, it's a proof that you know it, but you still need to go ahead and satisfy your recruiter. Certifications are to make sure that you have all the understanding, all the knowledge, each and everything that is required. Once that is there, you can go ahead and answer the questions that the recruiters go ahead and ask you, and accordingly you can go ahead and reply to those. Okay, so to be honest with you, a certification is not going to go ahead and fetch you a job at the end. It's the knowledge that will. I know so many data scientists. Sharanya is back, so I'm sure she would also agree with me that there are so many self-taught data scientists that we know that have been working at a very senior positions with very some great companies also. Self-taught data scientists, they never did any course. All they learned from was some free material, some YouTube videos, something as such. There are so many people, so it's not about it. The advantage that you get through certifications is you get to go ahead and learn from a guide or a mentor who's already doing that in an organization. That makes your job easier. That makes sure you have a better chance of clearing the interview. If you're looking for credentials that matter, then you should probably go ahead and look for opportunities like MBA in data science or anything else. Just 1 minute. Anybody else has any more question? Sharanya, are you able to go ahead and unmute yourself now?
Yes.
Awesome. So this is a question. It seems like there was some issue with your internet, but some people were asking, how important is it to get a certification? How much value does a certification actually hold? So we were discussing that part, and I was telling them about there are so many people who are self-taught. Who are working as data scientists, but it's about the knowledge that you get. I can go ahead and you can enroll into the program, you can go ahead and complete the program, but obviously there are 10 people. Obviously there will be somebody who will be number 1, there will be somebody who will be number 10. So, it also depends on the effort that you guys are putting in. What I would suggest, or I'm sure Sharanya would agree with me on that, 1 to 2 hours every day is what you need to study. Take your classes on Saturdays and Sundays. Leave everything else to us. Okay, we are going to make sure that you go ahead and become a data scientist at the end. But time commitment is something that we'll ask from you. It's just like learning any other language. Python is a language. Like you learn German, French, anything as such, you have to speak that language.
Practice, practice, practice.
That is the point. That is the point. Anybody else has any more question, guys? Otherwise, we are going to go ahead and end the session. Thank you, Monica. Thank you. Thank you, Rishabh. Thank you, all of you. All right. I guess we are done then. If anybody has any more question, we'll wait for 5 more seconds. If anybody has any questions, just let me know. And we will go ahead and take it.
Question here. What is ETL and what are the basic tools for it? ETL is nothing but extract, transform, and load. That's just getting your data and prepping it before you do analytics. It can, like I said, there are many, many tools. Depends on how much a particular organization is ready to. So, but you can do it with as simple as Excel, right? If your data isn't too big data, Excel can handle the basic ETLs as well, right? Of course, as and when your data gets bigger and bigger, it becomes big data, then you probably have to use other kind of tools because Excel can't handle that data. Yeah. So ETL is extract, transform, load.
And just to add to that, guys, tools are basically going to be tools. It's not knowledge. Do not get confused between them. Tools are bound to change. In future, we probably are going to have different visualization tools. Something that like you see in Marvel movies, Iron Man, just moving his hand and there's all 3D visualizations popping up. That can be the reality going forward also. So you never know. Maybe Tableau gets replaced by something that the I don't know, Stark Enterprise does. But the point that I'm trying to make is tools are something that are bound to be replaced. Okay, learning is an ongoing process. Who knows, maybe Scala becomes the next big language in which data science is being performed. So you'll have to learn that also. You need to understand the difference between knowledge and tools. Data science, machine learning, this is knowledge. Okay, how to visualize a data, that is knowledge. You use Excel, you use Power BI, you use Tableau. These are all tools at the end of the day. So again, you will be learning all the tools that will be required. There are more than hundreds of tools that I can think of right now that a data scientist cannot use. So it's not about the tools that matters. There are some that are used more or less generically, can be different for organizations. I know a company that uses Power BI. You switch your job, you move to a company that uses Tableau. So again, it keeps changing. So again, as I said, tools are bound to change, but knowledge stays with you. Okay, so focus on the process. For example, ETL we were discussing, focus on the process, what it is. Okay, tools is something, it'll probably take a week for you to get hold of, if something comes in the future also. So that's the last message that I had. Is there anything else that you would like to add, Sharanya? Otherwise, we will go ahead and end the session.
But I think you covered everything that I would like to say as well.
All right, then. Thank you once again, guys, for being a part of this session. It was really nice connecting with you. I had a lovely time. I'm sure you guys did too. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of you into the program, and let us go ahead and help you become the data scientists that you want to. On that note, this is me, Sanket, signing off. You guys have a wonderful day ahead. Bye-bye. Take care and stay safe. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Take care.